Good Monday afternoon. My name is Mike Prue. I'm the Department Chair of Science and Math, and I would like to welcome everyone to the open forum. You will have the opportunity to hear directly from today's CEO candidate, G. Duncan Harris. I'd like to lay out the format and ground rules for the forum. Number one, I will introduce our candidate. Secondly, the candidate will then give a brief 10 or 15-minute introduction and biography of his qualifications for consideration as Capital Community College's next CEO. I will then ask two questions of our candidate, which should further help inform us of the candidate's ability to effectively lead Capital Community College. Next, you, the attendees, will be able to send through the chat feature of WebEx any questions you would like the candidate to address. I will moderate the chat room and select questions to ask the candidate for the remainder of the session. I will conclude the forum at the scheduled time, 1 p.m. Before I begin, I ask all of you to make sure your phone or computer is on mute during the entire session. If there is too much noise from unmuted devices, I will interrupt the forum and we will force mute all devices. I will now introduce our candidate and provide a brief bio. Dr. G. Duncan Harris serves as the Interim Chief Executive Officer of Capital Community College in Hartford, Connecticut, responsible for strategic direction and daily operations of the college. Previously, he served as the Dean of Student Affairs at Manchester Community College. While at MCC, he also served as Acting Dean of Academic Affairs, Associate Dean of Academic Affairs, Counselor Coordinator of Academic Advising, and Interim Director of the Center for Student Development. He is recognized as an expert in student affairs, served as a NESHE evaluator, has been invited to lecture on the field to graduate students, and serves as coach to many student affairs professionals. In 2014, he launched the CSCU Student Success Center as the founding executive director. He is affiliated with several state and national organizations and serves as a commissioner on the American Association of Community Colleges Student Success Commission, and on the board of directors of the following organizations: the National Council on Black American Affairs, Food Share, Windsor Federal Savings Bank, Capital Workforce Partners, Campus Compact, and the BSL Education Foundation. Dr. Harris has received a number of awards for his leadership and contributions to the community, including the CCSU Distinguished Alumni Counseling Professional Award, NASPA Region 1 Community College Professional Award, and the Connecticut African American Affairs Man of the Year Award. Dr. Harris holds a Doctorate of Education from Nova Southeastern University, a Master of Science degree in Counseling from CCSU, a Bachelor of Science degree in Economics from UConn, and Certificate in Management and Leadership from Harvard University. He resides in Windsor, Connecticut with his wife, Garcia, and two children, Grant and Grayson. I present to you Dr. G. Duncan Harris.
Great. Thank you, Mike, for the introduction. First off, let me start by, stating that I hope everybody is faring well, based on the COVID situation that we're confronting all of us. Recently recovering myself from contracting COVID, and so I'm uniquely aware of the impact on our community. And I'm very prayerful for our faculty, staff, and students based on what they're facing. I know that a number of our faculty are actually involved in nursing and allied health affairs and paramedics, and so they're on the front lines. Also, I know that a number of our students are still working and oftentimes on the. You hear me?
Yes, Dr. Harris. Yeah, it looks like we got disconnected due to weather.
Yeah.
So
So I think I left off. I was talking about my background. Once again, I went to Bloomfield High, went to the University of Connecticut on scholarship, and then I was pursuing a profession and working for Merrill Lynch Financial Data Services. And so I was in Jacksonville, Florida, working in their money markets area, and working supporting the brokers, mutual funds, and money markets in their managerial training program, and had the idea of becoming a broker financial advisor myself one day. As a part of my work with Merrill, they allowed us to do community work, and I was mentoring a young man at an area high school, and I just loved the work. We would talk about goals, we would talk about what he wanted to do with his life. I kind of coached him about engaging more fully in high school, and what that would lead to. And somehow, whenever I would go back to the office, working in support of the broker just didn't seem to have as much meaning to me. And so at that point, I made a conscious decision to do a 180, and I had a good reputation at UConn, and so I was able to. They had a 1-year grant position working with Trio SSS, and so I was able to apply for that position. I went back to UConn in that role, working as a counselor advising in their Trio program, working with students like myself who were, trying to excel at UConn. Oftentimes, students of color who, or first gen, who felt somewhat, out of the mix or perhaps in the margins. And so I was a coach, mentor. It was a grant, so it was 1 year. So I knew that at some point I needed to secure a different role. So a position opened up at Manchester in 1996 as the test administrator. That was my first introduction to community colleges. And so I got that job. I was a successful candidate, and I knew that I needed to go back to school. And so I went to Central, like many of our students do, at night. And I was taking 2 or 3 classes in Central's master's program. I had a daughter at the time, I was a single parent until I got married, my wife, Garcia. And so I was juggling work, school, just like our students, and childcare. And so that was a very interesting time that informs, my commitment to ensuring students have the support that they need to be able to focus on school. And so I got my master's in counseling. I was always a natural. I was kind of the guy that people would talk to, talk to me about the problem, And so while I was a natural counselor, I didn't have the theoretical underpinnings. And so when I went through Central's program, that's where I really learned about the theory of student development in higher education. And so whether that's Tinto, Bandura, Vincent, some of the theorists that provide theory as it relates to what causes students to be successful in college. And so phenomenal experience at Central. And then when I completed that, I moved over into counseling. And so I was a counselor at Manchester for about 5 years, and actually developed the advising program there. A number of other retention programs. Was very involved at the onset with our bridge program. Worked with a number of people on establishing that. And so, but I also knew that I wanted to be an administrator. And so one of the ways to help even more people oftentimes is to get involved with administration. And so you're responsible for programmatic or institutional kind of initiatives versus some of the one-on-one work that I was very fulfilling and meaningful, as a counselor. But I really wanted to be engaged in building systems that support students. And so went back to school to pursue my doctorate. And so, I completed that. Interestingly, during my time working on my doctorate, I was very concerned about the disproportionate rates that males, African American males in particular at Manchester, were faring. They weren't being retained. They weren't, progressing through, large gaps in percentage rates, depending on the metrics that were being measured. And so for my dissertation, I did a study utilizing a non-cognitive questionnaire developed by Sedlick, in which I attempted to survey students to identify the factors that would contribute to ones that were more successful and others that weren't, based on GPA and retention rates. And so one of the things that was an outcome of that research, and I had probably about 65 students participate, was that, in addition to high school grades, the other factor was the existence of a strong support person that the student could identify by name, that was vested in seeing them stay in school and be successful. And so that has informed, much of my work, since that time. So that was maybe 2005. I was working on that research, and Manchester later developed a program called Brother to Brother as a result of the outcome of my research. But I know that, as I'm talking to students, and that in the back of my mind, I'm always will probe to see if they can identify, that strong support person. Oftentimes it's, an individual at the institution. It may be somebody at home, but who is that champion that understands what you're doing in school, that provides unconditional support for you achieving your academic goals. And so strong support person, which once again was the number one item that came out of that research. And so that's informed, kind of what I attempt to do in various roles now. So then I moved over. I got my dream job, which was at the time Dean of Student Affairs, and I was responsible for, as the Chief Student Affairs Officer at Manchester, probably for 8 or 9 years. And so, responsible for conduct, responsible for advising all of the student activities programs, you name it in terms of that portfolio. But we did some really amazing work around retention. We re-engineered kind of how we onboard, bring in new students. We developed our strategic enrollment management committee during that period, and was doing some very innovative approaches to utilizing data to inform strategies for recruitment of students. And so, so then I was there, and an opportunity opened up at Capitol. Once again, I'm a local guy. I spent a lot of time, in terms of service in the Hartford area. And so when the president of Capitol, excuse me, announced his retirement, I threw my hat in the ring for the interim, and that was 2 years ago. Well, really 22 months. And so, during that time, I've been fortunate to, lock arms with the faculty and staff of Capitol, to provide support to our students, to begin to develop a culture of success and equity, and unconditional positive regard, and being student ready, and a wide variety of supports, for our students, and for us to really be introspective about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how that ultimately contributes to, the students who trust us, with this portion of their lives with regard to pursuing higher education, that we, honor that trust and deliver with regard to, high quality higher education, and access to careers and transfer based on the programs that we offer. So, I'm student centered. When I come to work, it's about what we can do for students. There's crystal clarity with me in that regard. That's why we're there. And so, once again, I'm very excited about, the prospect of serving as permanent CEO, for what is possible and what we can do, for our students. So that's my, me, where I came from, and in large part why I'm interested in being the permanent CEO at Capitol.
Thank you, Dr. Harris, for your introduction. As a reminder for the audience, I'm going to lead the question and answer portion of the forum with 2 questions that Dr. Harris will respond to. After those 2 questions, I will take questions from the audience through the chat feature. So be thinking of questions that you would like me to ask of Dr. Harris. and I will do my best to get to your questions. So you can send those through chat at any time, but I'm going to start off with two questions. So the first question for you, Dr. Harris, is what two qualities of a leader do you believe are most important in effectively leading Capital Community College?
Got it. Yeah. So two qualities of a leader. Once again, during my doctoral work, a lot of that was, an assessment and an evaluation and of the type of leader that and the theoretical underpinnings of your leadership philosophy. And so for me, there's a concept of leadership called servant leadership. Oftentimes credit is given to Robert Greenleaf as the primary individual responsible for, it's leader as servant. Now, servant doesn't mean that I'm saying yes to everything or what have you, but that I have a servant heart and that I am motivated by seeing our team achieve our goals by investing in our greatest asset, which is our people. It's not our building, it's not our budget, what have you. And so, a servant, true servant leader, invests and provides the support needed for the individuals that they work with to be successful in whatever the goals that they've established are for the group. And so I think that at Capital, I think that that we are well served by an individual successful candidate that has a servant heart and that recognizes that the faculty and staff are best served by that individual contributing their talents and energies to making sure that those individuals have what they need to deliver on, our ultimate goal, which is student success and supporting our students. And then the second characteristic that I would suggest is that there's clarity of vision, and that where are we headed? Who are we? And so once again, that there's clarity and focus that is exhibited by that CEO. And so since I've been at the college, and I came in and kind of, I think, was able to clearly articulate that, and people bought into it. Once again, I'm still wearing my banner bracelet that says Destination Capital. That was something that we launched early on, and this idea of what it means for us to be a destination institution for the students, that reside in our region and a place where they come to get something, right? Destination. And that we've been, delivering on that. And that's a quality education, degree or credential that allows them to provide for themselves and their families or transfer or whatever. And so folks have rallied around that. I think that Capital for quite some time has been an institution that the people that, decide and choose to work there, they come there, with purpose and to serve, and it's good and noble work. And I think that one of the things that I've added is kind of this clarity with regard to who we are, where we're headed. And for me to be a champion of that and to, as required, be the face of Capital out in the community, whether that's at a Metro Hartford Alliance event or whether that's at Faith Church for their, 200th anniversary celebration, or whether that's on the stage working with Achieve Hartford, talking about increasing student success for students, or speaking at a Hartford Youth Scholars event. And so I know that I need to be out in the community touting what we do, how we serve the community within which we exist. And so those are the two I'd suggest, that this desire to serve, to provide faculty and staff with the supports that they need to be successful. And then the second component of that is clarity of vision and an ability to articulate vision that folks can rally around. Mike, I think your mic's on mute.
Thank you. Thank you again for your response, Dr. Harris. The second of my two initial questions is, given the current COVID pandemic we are all living in, issues of equity for our students have been amplified with the transition to fully online classes, lack of resources, et cetera, et cetera. How do you define equity? And secondly, what are some strategies you would implement to mitigate the equity issues our students are currently facing and most likely will continue to face in the future?
Yeah, there's a there's a piece that actually equity is our excuse me, our system has identified 5 goals, and actually equity is one of the goals identified by our system office also. But when I define equity, um, oftentimes people mix up equity and equality. Equity is more of a process, and equality is an outcome. So what you're looking at it is how oftentimes certain groups have been, relegated to systems in which there are disproportionate outcomes based on just oftentimes the systems that they're in. And so when you're attempting to achieve equity, you're looking at removing the barriers to those individuals having similar outcomes to other groups, right? And you're not blaming the individuals for their where how they're performing or what the outcomes that they're achieving, but you're looking at the systems within which they have been relegated to in some instances, which result in inequitable outcomes. Right now, we're observing that in terms of the disparities in healthcare and health outcomes. And when we look at some of the urban areas, largely Black and brown, and how COVID is decimating those communities based on disproportionate rates of diabetes or hypertension, asthma, things like that, which oftentimes are connected to the environment and not having access to quality food, and other factors that manifest themselves in how folks are being impacted by COVID in urban areas. I do worry about Hartford, and it suggested that Hartford is suggested to peak mid-May, and so we're at April 13 today, and so we there's still limited testing going on, and so we're not exactly sure. Every day that I'm on Facebook, it's somebody's cousin or aunt, and we're starting to see the impact, and so I do worry about the inequity that we're seeing during this time. I'm thankful that at Capitol that we have, that we're, equity minded, and we're certainly seeking to become more and more equity minded. And as soon as COVID hit, we, Stephanie and her team, made sure that students, we had repurposed computers because we knew that might be a barrier. We, have a team that's rallying in terms of providing resources to students. Our pantry stays active, during the year. And so when we closed the building on on March 13th, where are some of those students that count on us and count on our pantry for meals? Where are they going? So, once again, Jason and his team made sure that we connected to provide resources to students to make sure that they were able to, address food insecurity issues. We reached out to the foundation this last week. They're providing an additional $20,000 of support to ensure that students that may have issues or emergencies or that may still be experiencing technology-related equity issues, that they have the ability to, get a computer or get some money for this and that. The federal government has, in terms of the CARES Act, and so there will be funding coming to Capitol. That is to be for direct student support during this time, and then also support to the institution with unrestricted funds. And so we know, our students, a disproportionate number of which, may work retail. And so what are our students doing now when the restaurant that they worked at or what have you has shut down? and they're still in class and they're trying to figure out how funding's going to come in to to eat or pay rent or what have you. So you know, capital has a role to play in all this. Getting back to the question, I think that we've rallied to be supportive of our students, and we could do even more, and we'll continue to do more, during this period. But you know, the other component of that is that, as you're aware, we're in the midst of building our equity center, and at the heart of that is the idea of ameliorating, removing barriers to students being in school through the equity center by pulling in partnerships and resources so that students don't have to leave the building to access supports that might be getting in the way of them being able to remain in class and complete school, whether that's child care or housing insecurity or what have you. That those supports are in place, to support our students.
Thank you for your response, Dr. Harris. Those were my initial two questions. I invite anybody in the audience to send a message through the chat feature, and I will relay that question on to Dr. Harris to get his response. I'll wait a minute or so for folks to think of any question at all you'd like me to ask Dr. Harris.
And if folks are thinking, I do have something I wanted to share about career services. If there's a little bit of a lull.
Sure, feel free.
Okay, so one of the things since I arrived at the institution is that I recognize that we should have a very robust career services. Our students work. They live at home. It's not like they're in dorms the way that when I went to school and my job was to just kind of go to class and go to the CAF and things like that. And so our students live at home, they have to work. And so when I first came to the college 22 months ago, having been responsible for career services and having some expertise in that area, I recognized that we needed to bolster and really work on improving our career services function at the college. It seemed as though there had been some drift, and perhaps we weren't focusing on that. And this idea, one of the concepts that I've touted or have iterated on a number of times is this concept of the work continuum, where our students may need assistance getting their first job. So perhaps coming out of high school, they hadn't worked, they weren't familiar with kind of some of the essential skills required to be successful in the workplace. And so it's important for us to be mindful that we may need to provide assistance to our students in getting their first job. Last summer, we had our bridge program, which we did on a shoestring budget. We raised funding on our own and used some outcome-based funding. But one of the unique components of our bridge program was that we provided a job to the students participating. So these are incoming freshmen, and so first semester students, and so we either had a job on campus or a job in the community for them. And so not only were they learning about essential workplace skills, we were grooming them in many of our own offices. I think about the twins, that were working in IT and how successful that they are now. But we helped them get that job during the summer, and so not only were they earning income, but they were gaining valuable workplace skills, through coaching and learning. Now, within that continuum is is the first job, but also then a better job. What I mean by better, kind of in quotes, is a job that might be connected to them applying some of the things that they've learned in their major. So certainly, once again, some of the students in Saeed's program, in the cybersecurity, they may have started retail, but after taking certain classes, certain classes with Saeed, perhaps they can get a job, working at Travelers, working in IT and IT area, help desk, et cetera. And so they're able to apply what they've learned while they're in school with us, right? And so you have this continuum, first job, Now I've taken Excel, now I've taken public speaking. I'm able to move into a different component. So a better job. And then finally, while they're with us, they should have some concept of where they want to end up as a part of their career. So we've been very intentional about, utilizing, Focus 2 and career software, the role of program coordinators working with students to make sure that they're at least in the right field. I'm very aware individuals may change their careers over time, myself included, Mike included. However, at the same time, while they're with us, I think we have an obligation to do some career exploration to help them at least figure out, where they're going to end up career and how that's connected to either their AS degree or if they're going to transfer with us and pursue a bachelor's degree. That we at least get them close to what makes sense, for them based on their skills and interests and what careers that they have articulated interest in. And so that career thing was big for me. We've had gotten great feedback from employers that have come to our career fair in the past. They had mixed reviews, commenting that they didn't feel students were prepared or what have you. And since that time, I know Hannah and the team, Linda, you and Ed, that they've done workshops leading up to the career fair. Phenomenal feedback from participants. And so, one of the ways in which we can help address some of the equity issues and as really a retention strategy is to talk to our students about where they're working and then make sure that we've got them with the ability to earn some income if that's the first job. But then, let's get them over to Travelers. Let's get them over to the Hartford. Let's get them over to United Healthcare in one of the CCAP programs or Edge or what have you. And just, we had our alumni event, and to hear, the role that Capital played in one of our alumni recipients at the gala, and how, he had his entire family there, and he's an executive there now. And, that's kind of what we do. And so once again, to really integrate our role in being aware of where our students work, 97, 98%, 99 are working. Where are you working? How much are you making? Is that connected to your major? Here's another opportunity. Are you interested in that? This has better hours, which causes you to not be up all night. You're making $10 more an hour. You're getting medical benefit. So that's an area that I'm very excited about. That we really moved the needle on in a very different way. With the lead center, and now we've in relatively short amount of time have moved the needle for with regard to our career services area. I don't know if any questions have come in.
Thank you, Dr. Harris, for your response. Yeah, we did get a few that I, particularly a collective question from the Student Government Association. They wanted to know your thoughts on renovating Capitol. They understand that there's some talk and plans with regards to the physical structure of Capitol and possibly getting a fitness center. Is that in the works? And in addition, wanted you to speak to the current bookstore and the future of where that bookstore may be located. So these are more about the physical plan. And so if you could address that.
Will do. Yeah. Interestingly, I think when I first started, once again, 22 months ago, one of the things that concerned me was the condition of the physical plant. I came in and, I heard that folks, students in particular, had mentioned the escalators. And so, once again, for a year, to have a sign up saying that the escalator doesn't work, kind of sends a message. I came in, the 11th floor, there were, water buckets in the hallway, from leaks in the roof and, and so, I'm walking to, my office, and I'm walking around, a wet carpet, and I've got, 300 nursing students on the 11th floor, walking around buckets to go to learn. And so there's a piece to me where, I feel as though that's unacceptable. I feel as though, our students are once again entitled to, a similar educational environment as, any of the CSUs or other community colleges or what have you as a public higher education entity. But I didn't feel like our space reflected that, or whether that's budget allocation, how bond dollars, or new formulas. And so in short order, we've taken that on. There's nothing like a coat of paint. And I don't mean to trivialize it, but to take care of our space and our physical plan. There's some things that in terms of the lobby, and trust me, I didn't ask for my poster to be the one up there or whatever, but that makes a difference in terms of coming in and what we say about the place, what's supposed to happen when you get in these elevators and go upstairs versus the way it was. We've got some other plans for the lobby that will have some inspiring messages and things like that we have there. We did a lot of work on the third floor. I felt like I was going back in a fortunately time machine. I think that investments hadn't been made, and that our students were being subjected to environments in which they were expected to learn that were not on the same level as other public higher education institutions. I know that we asked about equity earlier, so I'd almost suggest that there was some inequitable kind of things related to our physical plan. I'm very excited about some of the we've really worked on our relationship with the system office and the vice president of facilities, Keith Epstein, and Armin Bierman, who are responsible for all of the campuses, and we've had them out a lot. And they're not able to say that the condition of this building that they're responsible for ultimately was in a similar state of repair as the other institutions. And so they've doubled down. They've they're out there. Eddie Miranda has developed a very and Jim John Woodrow developed a phenomenal relationship with them, getting us up to speed. And so as a part of that is some of the things on 7. And so when we originally moved downtown in '01, the space that the bookstore is in, that was the fitness center. It's actually, there's showers in there. The floors have been reinforced to support additional weight. And based on a last minute decision, they put the bookstore in there. And so that's 19 years ago. And so when you go to other campuses, as it relates to equity and what students have on those campuses in terms of co-curricular activities and programming, that they have gyms and they have spaces where students can congregate and work on their physical well-being. So capital students deserve that also. And so it's not a gym, which is what it was intended to be, and it's not a very welcoming bookstore either. Right? And so the plan is to move the bookstore to acquire some space in 960, move the bookstore, and then that would allow us to create an appropriate space for students to have a fitness center. And there's all kinds of research connected with students being able to be on campus more, being more likely to be retained. Right? And so if we have spaces that are conducive to students who, especially if they're full-time, being on campus all day, and to have a buddy and they go work out or whatever. And even in terms of the showers, we've got a lot of students that are housing insecure and who don't have a place to take a shower. But now we'll have the ability for our students to utilize the fitness center for what its original intended purpose is, which was to be a space where students could engage in physical activity and things like that. So I'm very excited about that. So we've got some funding in place to redo the library. So there were bond dollars, and so once again, when you go in there and there are chairs that I know that they're not supposed to be that color, based on the wear and tear or that and so we have and that should be done this summer, not sooner, but to remove a lot of the furniture that's in there and to have similar furniture that you would see in any of the other 11 college libraries. which is what our students are entitled to. And so, physical plant matters, right? You should feel good about where you go to learn, where you go to work, and so we've been, working on that. And kudos to Dean Miranda and John Boudreaux and his team, who carried that banner, loud and clear. And so very excited about the work we're doing on the physical plant to support our students' level of engagement and for them to have a place to learn that they're proud of.
Thank you, Dr. Harris, for your response. I have a couple of additional questions. What is your definition of student success? And what new leadership initiatives will you pursue to help students be more successful according to your definition of success?
Yeah. Student success, how I define it. So when I first started working in community colleges, we took great pride in just letting students in, right? So by us being open admission and us, somebody graduated from high school, we made them a college student. They applied, they paid their $20 at the time. There was a cost for the application, and we would pat ourselves on the back based on the how many students we had at the start of the semester. And we did a great job, and we, went out and recruited all these students, and they're all coming to fill in the blank name of the college. And so, but over time, I know that my definition of student success has changed dramatically, and there's been a pivot to where, well, how are they doing? Are they finishing their classes? Are they getting a degree that allows them to enter into the world of work or to transfer? And so when we talk about student success, it's not just the start and that we let, quote unquote, let somebody in. It's like, well, what happened when they got to us? Did we deliver? Did we keep them in? Did they have the supports needed to demonstrate the learning required in the classroom, as evidenced by the assessment of the faculty? Are they completing their credits? How long is it taking? I'd imagine that students, when they come in, they don't intend to be with us forever. Are they getting to, their articulated goal with us? So when I define student success, it's really about, were we able to deliver on the articulated, you know, goal that the student shared with us at the time that they came to us, right? And it's not just letting them in. They're not, but it's more about the end. And we talk about guided pathways, how they come to us, what happens, and what type of support that we provide to move them through our organization, and then equally as important to the to and through is what happens when they leave us and they move from us into the world of work or into transfer. And so that when we talk about student success, that's how I define it. It's a continuum, right? To, through, and from, and what happens along the way. And so one of the things that I'm very excited about with regard to initiatives at the college linked to student success was a couple. I'm very optimistic about a couple grants that we've applied for. One is a Title V Hispanic Serving Institution grant, which is a sizable grant over time, about $3 million, 5-year grant, which will allow us to onboard staff, wrap around high touch case management type of support for our students to really pull back layers to identify things that may be impeding their ability to be successful. So that Title V grant, knock on wood, hopefully we get that, will transform our organization. We also have our TRIO SSS grant. I'm optimistic and excited about what that would do for that cohort of students served by that. But and we're coming to finish line on our equity proposal through the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. And there are so many things that are included in that are empirically a good thing for our students in terms of whether that's support for housing insecurity, the things that are included in there around our students that are parents and juggling, you know, ensuring that their students that their children have a safe place to be while they're taking chemistry or math or whatever. And so us taking that on in terms of the child care, housing insecurity, reentry work that will be connected with our equity center. The numbers of individuals that are justice involved that when they get out they're just kind of dropped off somewhere without supports or plan. And so certainly individuals that have been justice involved, the idea of them having skills or training, certainly a credential, being some of the armor that they may need to be able to secure gainful employment and a future, is a space that we need to operate in. So I'm truly excited about this equity center, and that our students will not need to leave the building in order to be connected with those non-cognitive things, impeding their ability to be successful in college. The other component of the Equity Center is it being a resource for our faculty. So we've got 63, full-time faculty, but another, close to 200 adjunct faculty. And so that once again, this idea that as a faculty member, I don't necessarily need to know about the services that CRT or the village provides, but I do need to know that I could refer the student who stopped coming to class or has listed something in their essay or Blackboard that is causing them to not be able to complete the work in my class. That I do need to know that I could refer them to the Equity Center on the third floor, and that there's a wide variety of services that are provided there and resources, that there's a navigator, there's these caring people that will work to remove those barriers impeding that student's ability to complete my class, right? And so that's the support that faculty member can provide, and that's a useful campus resource that we'll have that we currently don't have, that's available to increase the numbers of students that we have being retained and being successful. So very excited about that. But that's how I define student success. It's oftentimes about what the students have articulated as their goal, and were they able to achieve that goal as a result of the engagement and support that we've provided to them.
Thanks for your response again, Dr. Harris. We're going to end with two questions. The final question will be framed so that you can include your closing remarks as a result of the final question. But the question leading into the final question is a hypothetical. I'm a student who's choosing between Capital Community College and another local two-year school. What would be your sales pitch to me to convince me that Capital is the best choice, since you have experience working at Capital?
Sure. Let me start by saying, as a counselor for a number of years and a student affairs professional, professionally trained, you have an ethical obligation to ensure that it's the right fit. Right? So let me say that again. So ethically, it's not really about me convincing a student to come to Capital, but the counselor in me, the student affairs, student centric, is to really talk to that student about what they're seeking, and to, based on that exchange, to determine if Capital is the best fit. It's not going to be the best fit for everybody. But once again, in terms of being a true, student affairs professional, it's to provide wise counsel, wise guidance to students seeking knowledge and information about what's in the best interest of the future. So, having said that, if based on that assessment, I'm hearing things that would suggest that Capital is the best fit, that they're interested in a unique program that we have. If they are, they love they say that they're a resident of Hartford and they love their city and they want to learn more about their city as a result of participating in our Hartford Heritage Program, or they want to serve the city through, one of our community service programs or internships and things like that that we provide. If they are an individual who considers themselves a citizen of the world and they love being in diverse environments with people from everywhere, right? And so, Capital is one of the most diverse schools in New England. And so if after talking to that individual, I'm hearing things that cause me to believe that they are, motivated and want to be in a culturally rich, one of the most culturally rich institutions in our system, and so, and they want I love coming into Capital. Once again, I worked in another institution for quite some time. I recall, going to an event at that campus, and then I came back to Capital, and I was like, wow, I love power of the city and the energy and things like that. And so once again, it's about fit. And then after talking to the student, if they disclose things that cause me to believe that Capital was the best fit, that they would get what they needed based on what they had disclosed, that's when I would engage them in talking about coming to our institution. But once again, starting, ethically, it's my role, to provide wise counsel, wise guidance, information that student would ultimately make the decision about. So I'm not going to convince. I would provide the information and help lead that student to a decision that made the most sense for them, based on where their strengths, with their interests, and where their passions lie.
Thank you very much, Dr. Harris, for your response. And um, I'd like you to frame your closing remarks, because we're near the end of this session. I'd like you to frame your closing remarks based on the following. If I am a student at Capital Community College with a voice in the CEO selection process, why should I choose you as the next CEO of Capital Community College?
Good question. Um, I think that, um, once again, I've been in the role for 22 months now. I think that there are a number of students that have gotten the opportunity to know me and how I invest in them, and how, when we're riding the elevators together, I'll look them in the eye and ask them if there's anything that they need and how they're doing, how they're faring in their classes. I think about all of the nursing students that I engage every Monday and Friday on my way to my office, and providing them with support and encouragement, and so there's a piece to what what students have seen with regard to me, that, over time, as it relates to evidence. The other thing, that a part of my role is to make decisions about who gets to work at the college. And so, even though I don't have as much, direct student contact as I used to as a counselor, I would hope that students could see in the decisions that I've made around hiring, caring professionals that, are directly supporting students and providing an environment where they feel valued and have what they need. So oftentimes they may not, in a very overt way, see the impact that I'm having on our institution, but I think that they see it in the decisions that maybe they don't even know, but that I'm responsible for making, that have a direct impact on the students. And so during the time I recruited and hired some very student-centered, talented, faculty and staff and administrators that I think are reflective of my, decision-making ability and how I care about our students at Capital Community College. And so there's a body of work. Once again, I only applied for one college. I wasn't, applying for multiple. I knew that I wanted to be Capital and Capital only CEO, which is I know that I could do the job and I could do it anywhere, but I wanted to be specifically at Capital to serve and meet the needs of Capital students. And, I've spent the last 22 months, doing that. I think that, what I'm seeking is the opportunity to continue to work and finish what we've started together. And so I'd suggest that as a student who's kind of voting on this, and weighing in and having votes, that there's a guy that I've seen, and that has it's not necessarily solely what they said over a WebEx, but I've seen him every day in the elevators, and he talks to me and makes sure that I have what I need, and that he has onboarded talented professionals that care about me and want to see me be great. And so I think that's hopefully the evidence that students have to elicit confidence in my ability to be the permanent CEO of Capital Community College.
Well, I thank you again for your response, Dr. Harris. Additionally, I thank you for your time today and your candidness. This concludes our teleconference, but before we end, for all in attendance today, you'll receive a follow-up email that has a video recording of this forum and an online survey for you to fill out. I ask that all of you take the time this week to fill out the survey. Thank you all for attending, and please stay safe.
All right. Take care, everybody.